everybody, welcome to another video. So today we're having a look, oh nearly broke my mug, I've got to tell you about the mug. Today we're having a look at the Meiji Finer Force Type C. Now people who watch my channel will know that I really champion these guns, and I know a fair few people that have bought these guns. I get messages from them, and some people have bought the set like I have. But this is a relatively new gun, the Type C. It differs from the others in it actually runs at a lower pressure, so it is quite universal. It's a newer version of the F0 Type C, but looking at the two of them, the caps are actually different. So I'm going to do a spray out, see if the pattern's any different. But one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is that they have actually modified the Finer Forces. They've done a few modifications, purely aesthetic most of them, but I just wanted to run through what the differences were so that you knew what the differences were between the newer versions and the older versions. As always, or as usual, I got this from Painting Tools Japan. They give me a good service, always have done, so I'll put a link in the description to where I got that from if you're interested. If you're in the UK, you may be interested, or really interested as I was, to know that there is actually now, or will be very soon, well I mean there's a proper UK importer for Meiji. So their website, they were good enough to send me one of their metal plaques, is meiji.co.uk. Now they're not carrying the whole range. They're carrying some of the range, but they are carrying the Finer Forces in the Type C. They do some pressure versions as well, because I know that apparently a lot of their customers use pressure versions. So they've got some that they've got the pressure version of the Finer Force Type C and the F110 from memory. I'm doing all this from memory, but I think I'm more or less right. But they sent me a catalogue, and the catalogue is actually quite comprehensive. So they're not carrying all of them, but when the website's up and running, you'll be able to go there and have a look. But I thought it was really good that somebody's actually bothered to bring these things in officially to the UK, so they, you know, keep some spare parts for it, offer you backup if something goes wrong, etc, etc. So a big thank you to them for sending me those bits, and also for taking on the challenge, because they're a very, very good gun, very good make and very good quality, and it'd be nice to have something in the UK that does the same. They also sent me a rather nice personalised mug, in that it's got Pete's Hobbies on it, which is excellent. That's just my that's one of my caps, actually, YouTube banner thing. So yeah, thank you to them for that. So let's have a look. I'll put a link in the description, by the way, to the website. The company that the parent company effectively are Beyond Surface Solutions, or BSS. So I'll put a link in the description to that as well, because that website's not actually up and running at the moment, although as far as I understand, BSS are selling the gun. So if you do want anything, you can go down there. But I'll put a link in the description, as I say, and you'll be able to find whatever you want then. So looking at the differences between we'll start off with these, which is the changes between the older Type Finer Forces and the new ones. So the only differences there are the control knobs are actually different. Here they are effectively knurled or fluted, and a bit of a bigger diameter. You notice that, if you notice there, these are just shaped differently and a bit smaller. One of the things I instantly noticed, and when I put them on the scales, I was surprised at how little difference there was, but the newer version feels lighter compared to the old version. But when you actually weigh them, it's 5 grams. It's literally 5 grams lighter. So the new one is 5 grams lighter. So I presume it's just the fact that, for example, the fan adjuster there is smaller, is thinner, so you're just losing material, really. Another thing is the actual look of the gun. This one has a sort of like more of a satiny silver finish, whereas this has more of a matte finish. Minor things, but it is there. Also, the shape of the adjustment for the onboard air supply is different. It's a knurled finish there once again, and here again it's this more of a slotted, fluted finish rather than anything else. So they do exactly the same thing, and the rest of the guns are exactly the same. The trigger is still plastic. I've never actually managed to break one of these, so they are very, very hard wearing. There's something nice about a plastic trigger, especially on cold days. You pick it up and it just doesn't have the same sort of depth of coolness that a metal trigger has. And that's about it really. The other thing they have done, actually, I will say, which can often be a problem for people, I am pulling the trigger back, they have put on the baffle, there's a small baffle here. This isn't actually a sealing baffle. For those that are worried, I know a few people have messaged me before in the past saying, oh, I don't want a gun with a baffle because it's just something else to go wrong, and something else that won't seal. Well, it actually seals here. It actually seals on the base of the tip. So the baffle is purely an air deflection plate, nothing else. But what they have done is they've put back on the baffle, because it's possible to get that baffle on both ways. So by putting back on the baffle, it means you know which way it actually goes in, which is nice. The other thing I noticed compared to the Type C and the F0 Type C is that the baffle, got baffle on my head, the tip is actually the same on both of these. So the F0 Type C and the Finer Force Type C has exactly the same tip. Both of them got the same markings as well, 14 LS. Now I'm not sure what LS means, but both of these are designed to work at lower pressure, so they actually have more air holes in the front here than, for example, this one, which is the Type R. You see it has bigger but less air holes, but this is designed to run at 2 bar. So other than that, there's not a huge deal of difference between the two Finer Forces, but that's quite a good idea, putting the way that's orientated on the back so that people know, just because it is possible to make a mistake. The only other thing I found that's different is actually a marking here for plus and minus on the air control valve, whereas, get my guns mixed up, it's actually missing from that. I mean, it's quite easy to suss out, but it is actually missing from that. So that's it really, apart from it's just a few styling changes really, but the guns are basically the same. Stuff's fully interchangeable. If you need to change a knob, you could put the new knob on the old gun, etc, etc. So what we're going to do now is put a camera on my head and we'll just see what type of pattern we get from the F0 Type C and the Finer Force, because what I did notice, he says, there it is although the tips are the same, the caps actually differ a fair bit. If you can see there, the air horns look more or less the same, and I think that's due to the fact that they run at a lower pressure. But on the inside of the cap, you can see there's 2 holes each side of the large exit hole where the fluid tip sits. And there's actually 3 on here, and the holes are obviously spaced differently. So I'm not sure whether, as I say, I've literally just got this, I'm not sure whether it's going to be different or not, but we'll just check the pattern on this, and then later on I'll bring you a full proper review on the Type C, because as I say, I think I said I'll put a link in the description to the F0 Type C. I was really impressed with this, so if this thing is anywhere near as good, then brilliant. They're very good guns. Right, so I'll stick a gun on my head and we'll just have a little spray out and see what it looks like. So we start with a Finer Force Type C. I'll set it to 1.5 bar, which is about 22 psi. Full fluid, full fan. The material in there is a mixture of clear coat and thinners with some black tinter, but it's 18 seconds for a Ford cup, so it's sort of like mid viscosity really. I use the NS on water spanner, which is 7 inches, 175 mil from front to back. that's the distance it will give us, although normally I would hold this gun closer, but as long as I do the two of them the same, then it should give us a comparison. So 1.4 Finer Force Type C. Let's see how we go. That's quite a big pattern, quite a big pattern. So I'll put that down there, and then we'll get the F0 1.4, put the fluid in that and see what sort of pattern we got. 0 Type C. Again, this runs at 1.5 bar, so I've left the gauge exactly where it was before, and it's drawing 1.5 bar. So we can see that these two guns are drawing the same amount of air, which is about 6 CFM. So it's not a huge amount for what is effectively a midi gun more than a mini gun. So we got full fluid, full fan. Obviously the onboard air consumption is or the onboard air pressure is set to full so that we get a proper reading on the gauge. 1.5 bar. Again, I'll do it at 7 inches, although I would normally hold this about 5 inches, 6 inches away from the work, and we'll see what size the fan is. Again, we've got a big fan. So just looking at the two patterns, there's a bit of separation here on the Finer Force C. So it could be that the material is just a little bit too thin for that sort of pressure. So you could take the pressure down slightly or bring the fan in slightly. I would tend to just take the pressure down slightly, and you'll find that will even out nicely. The F0 Type C has give quite an even pattern, but size wise they're both very similar, although definitely the Finer Force seems to be a bit heavier. The material seems to be coming out slightly more. Anyway, I'm not sure what we've learned from that, guys, but I hope you enjoyed the video as always. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.